Martin Coven, and I'm a Principal Experience Designer for 3ds Max. And I want to show you some of the latest updates we have for the chamfer tools in 3ds Max 2020. The first one, you'll see I have selected an edge, and then I'll add a chamfer modifier, and we are going to do an in bias. So a chamfer, in this case, is only being chamfering one edge. And you can see after that edge, the chamfer terminates along the next edges, and this bias allows you to push it to one end to the other. So you can create these nice sharp edges, or you can push it out to have a more of a fade out than we could before. Okay, this next part is around an inset. So just adjust this a little bit. And what this inset does is it insets along the faces. It's like a face inset, but it uses the same rules as the chamfer does. So any edges that become chamfered, the islands of the faces that make up that chamfered area become inset. And this fixes a lot of the smoothing normals that occur. We have errors that occur, and you'll see this a little bit later. But essentially it's using the same normals as the original face. So here's another case with inset. This time I'm selecting islands of polygons. And then when I apply the chamfer, I'll set the chamfer to use the face borders. So it'll only chamfer around the outside of these selections. Right now you can't see much because the chamfer is just cutting into the face. There's no deformation or anything of the mesh. But I'll put it in wireframe so you can see it. So now you can see the outlines of where the chamfer is occurring. I'll make it a little bit smaller, and then I'll add the inset. And still, you really wouldn't be able to see anything, but I'll adjust the amount. And then in this case, the thing that really does it is the offset. So in this case, I'll offset it in a negative amount. So I'm pushing it into the mesh. And as you can see, you get these nice panel lines that are fully adjustable and fully procedural. At any time I can go in and change the selection, and these panel lines will update. Okay, this part is around, we have a new method of setting the amount of chamfer. So we have a fixed amount, and then this is using a crease weight. So it's a varying amount based on a weight that the user inputs. Okay, in this video is just more of a practical example. The other portion was just highlighting what the new features are. And then this is kind of showing how it would be used. So I'm adding a chamfer. Bring the size down a little bit so we don't have so much overlapping. And I'll tell it to use hard edges or unsmooth edges, so it's using the smoothing groups. And I'll turn inset on, and you can see it really cleans it up. Turn it on and off again, so you can see the triangulation that happens. And then when I turn on inset, nice and clean. Now I'm setting it to use crease weights to determine the amount of the chamfer. And I'm just going in and I'm making the selections and adjusting the weights in those areas. So this gives the user a lot more control, a lot more flexibility, being able to have multiple widths of chamfers on a mesh, all driven by weights, and it's only one chamfer. Before you would have to, for one thing, you couldn't make varying weight chamfers. You couldn't have a chamfered edge that was different sizes based on the weight along the length of it. And in order to have a mesh that had individual areas that were chamfered in different sizes, you would have to have multiple chamfers. So either do it in the base mesh or have multiple chamfer modifiers. So I think this is going to be a really nice feature. Okay, one last thing I forgot is the presets. So we can save presets here. So I've got this object selected and I've kind of made a nice panel line setup. So I'll click save. And I'll call this panel lines. And then I can go to another mesh, make some selection, maybe take off some of this. And I'll add the chamfer modifier. And then I'll just select panel lines and load. And I've got panel lines there too.